Hello, my name is Jada, and I'm an adult figure skater that just finished my third of 4 semesters in grad school. Welcome to Jada Solo Dances. Hi guys, what's up? Long time no see. It's just that there's a lot going on. One of them is that I have choreographed very last minute 2 routines for our holiday show at my club. That's happening in 2 weeks from when I'm recording this, and I will 100% take you guys along for the ride. However, today I realized that when I started figure skating, I only did it because it was fun and I was a stressed out college student. But over the past 3.5 years, I realized that it's actually brought me a lot more, enjoyment and fulfillment, and given me transferable skills to my professional life and my personal life off of the ice. So since I thought this was interesting, I thought I would share with you guys my revelations about what figure skating has taught me over the last few years. The first lesson I've learned in figure skating is how to be patient. Figure skating progress is not linear, and in the beginning it feels great. You're learning how to swizzle and stand on one leg and do a 2-foot turn. Maybe you get lucky and try a mohawk or crossovers, but after all your basic skills are done, you've passed your first moves in the field test, whatever the case is, stuff gets hard. The language community likes to call this the intermediate plateau, where the beginning, as a beginner, everything is new and fresh and exciting, and then once you get used to that stuff, all the harder stuff is like impossible and you don't feel the same rate of progress. That's kind of where I've been. I feel like I've been a true intermediate the last couple years, and it's almost really interesting to think about because I would still also consider myself a little bit of a beginner, but I'm not. I've been skating for almost 4 years, and I can do a lot of stuff that I know beginners can't do, but for some reason I'm still in like this mentality that I'm like a beginner. But there's so much reward in being patient with yourself in figure skating, because if you know that you're not gonna get this outside mohawk today, but you know that you've done it before, then you have hope that you're going to be able to do it the next time you skate. You might know that an axle is not really in sight, but if you get that waltz loop, you're one step closer to getting your axle. So in my real life, I am not necessarily the most patient person when it comes to my own skills, but I realized through having to kind of persistently kind of like shave a little bit off at a time in skating, that in my personal life, I can kind of sit through difficult problems a lot easier now. Before, I would try something and then if it didn't work, I'd be like, oh, nope, I'm done. I can't do this. I'm a failure. But I guess I've had like a weird mental shift a little bit in that, like, I can sit with a data problem or having to like pilfer through policy documents, and I can sit there and really like think through problems now instead of just being like, oh, this isn't going to work. I'm not going to survive this. So I'm just done and I'm going to try something else now. And it's so rewarding because in my personal life, that has gotten me a lot of cool opportunities that I feel like I wouldn't have otherwise gotten because I would have just let it go. So I would think figure skating has really like instilled this level of patience and being kind to yourself and knowing that, hey, as long as you believe that you can do it, let's just put some stuff together and let's do it. The second lesson that figure skating for 3.5 years has taught me is how to cope with failure. Let's be honest, I was what some people would call a gifted child. I was never in a school with a gifted program, but I was always in the top echelon of all of the things in elementary. I was in the highest reading and math group. In middle school, I placed out of the reading battery that we had, and then in high school I was in all the APs that my school offered save for 2. So needless to say, I was a natural overachiever. I was just good at stuff. So whenever something happened to me that was not an A+ that I cared about. Sorry, AP Physics. I was really mad about it, and I couldn't cope with the fact that I got like a B- or a C, God forbid. I thought my entire academic career was over because I got a C in a class that was just a gen ed. Surprise, it wasn't. I'm literally gonna graduate with a master's degree in 6 months. In the beginning of skating, when I had my first retry on a test for my pre-bronze moves, and I was like contesting it. How could this be? And sure, maybe it was a bit picky of the judges at the time, but also, that taught me that just because you didn't pass a test in the moment doesn't mean that you're not a good skater. You might have had a bad day. Your muscles could have been working against you, or the judges could be having a bad day, and so there are just so many different other things that go into how you perform and what the judgment is, not just in skating but for everything. What this teaches me as someone that's going back into the workforce with a master's degree is that just because like one bad thing in your work or personal life happens doesn't mean that the whole thing is broken. You just need to work a little harder at it. And that's something that I feel like, as someone who was a chronic overachiever, I had to kind of come to terms with, because it never felt like something that was applicable to me. I always felt like I needed to do well the first time, all the time. And that obviously puts a lot of pressure on people. I am very grateful to figure skating for showing me that despite all the pressures that might be on you, it's okay to fail. And a lot of people fail and still succeed later on, even if they failed that one thing. The last life lesson I've learned from figure skating is how to plan ahead. More so, how to plan for a long-term goal. Obviously, I've planned ahead a little bit. I planned on going to Korea for study abroad, and I knew that I had to take Korean classes and complete a certificate and get a bunch of people to sign some papers. But other than that, I didn't have to do a whole lot. But there's something about having a really long-term goal that is very rewarding at the end of it. I knew that I wanted to perform very enlightening and personal pieces on the ice. That's kind of why I kept myself on the ice past the first learn to skate. But I didn't know how to put a program together. So obviously I said, hey coach, I want to compete in solo free dance. I don't really want to do patterns. Can we do that? And I've talked about this before. And he's like, yeah, sure. So we spent 6 months honing skills and building a program. And he helped me along the way. And then I got to the competition. I performed. I got last place. We're not going to talk about that. But I learned what it was like to go through the whole process of getting to a point where my skating had looked so much different than where I started when I made that decision. And that was really rewarding inside for me, because I saw my progress from the beginning of when I started this program development, learning how to do a 1.5 revolution twizzle, how to do a more artistic spin, and then seeing it come together in a full 1 minute 50 program was great. And so that then taught me not only how to make a program on my own, but also kind of plan for my future a little bit more with purpose, thinking about concrete things that I want to do in the future that do require me to work at it a little bit, the things that seem a little bit far or out of reach that now feel a little bit more like I can do them because I know the general steps. So for instance, I'm going to say I want to get back into data analytics. I kind of let go of my research dreams because academia is a soul sucker. I discovered that I can still do it in a different context. And that's really what I wanted to find out. But now I don't have almost any data analytics skills, but I'm teaching myself R, I'm teaching myself data visualization. A lot of the stuff I already know, it's just in a different package. So going through the process of making my first program with my coach, and then also working on this program that I'm working on right now has really developed me in a lot of ways, and I feel like I know what I'm doing a little bit more. It's an interesting shift. I feel like my mind has changed. Not to say that the pandemic has had nothing to do with this. I'm sure that me sitting in my room for many hours a day has certainly helped or hurt the thinking process, but I've always been pretty independent, so I don't necessarily think that me being alone has negatively affected any of this thought process, but I definitely have had a bit more time to myself to think about the nuances and stepping stones to a lot of the goals I want to do. So it's really cool to see how much I've grown over the past few years, from being a junior in college to an almost master's level graduate, and it's exciting. As a young person in my mid-20s, if doing a really expensive sport is the way for me to get there, then I'm happy with it. So what does all of this mean? Figure skating is great for your health. I lost 10 pounds or something in my first 6 or 8 months of skating. Figure skating helped my eating disorder because it gave me a more positive way to look at my body. But also figure skating taught me a lot of applicable, transferable life lessons that I feel like have made me a better person. And I really hope that if you do choose to figure skate, if you aren't already, or if you are a figure skater, that you have some of these more positive life skills that don't necessarily restrict themselves to the ice, because I never believed that being involved in a sport developed you in any particular way. You know, I tried the whole softball thing. I did soccer for like 2 minutes, and I was a dancer, but dance world is a whole different thing. I never believed in the sports develops you and changes you as a person, or, you know, maybe it helps with your teamwork skills, but I didn't think it could do all this. So on one hand, I'm a little sad that it took me this long to learn, but maybe this is where I needed to be. Maybe as a teenager, I wouldn't have been as receptive to a lot of these life lessons. And I am now. But regardless of what it is, that's all I have for y'all today. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on about how I feel like I've grown from learning how to figure skate. Thanks so much for watching. I promise I will be posting more videos soon. I have a lot of videos to edit, so hopefully y'all will see them over the next few weeks and into the new year. In any case, if you guys have learned anything about figure skating, please leave it in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see y'all next time. Bye.